with critical but other thoughts. um, it was a crazy day yesterday. Between the farmer's market that I usually do and a lot of conversations I had with close friends and the weather. Yeah, it was one of those days. So things happen for a reason. So I'm guessing I did a lot of introspection too, self-reflection myself yesterday. So I think it was good that I held off till today. Some of you have been asking about a stream schedule. I don't have one currently. I'm going to make an attempt to do every Sunday morning about this time. I've already been up for hours. This morning consisted of, I ended up dropping a store trip yesterday after the farmer's market in an effort to conserve time, and that didn't do me any good because as we know, the stream never happened yesterday. So I took care of that trip this morning, bright and early, before what I call the zombie bots are out in force. It's a good way to put it. You know, when you're an empath and you read people, when you're out in public, sometimes it's really hard to shut it off because some of them have quite a loud amount of stuff coming from them. This morning's store trip was interesting. All my trips into the public tend to be. Sometimes I'm really good at shutting everything off around me and just beelining to what I need to do and then get out, basically. Some people might consider it a type of agoraphobia. I consider it self-protection. When you can read other people, there's a couple of factors going on there. First, you pick up all the negative stuff out there. And let's face it, there's a lot. There's lots. Because this holodeck, with all the trauma going on, is keeping people in that negative headspace. So I pick up on that. So it's partially that, and partially after becoming so sick, I've become quite the germaphobe. So the less I'm out, the better. But let's see. During that trip, I'm going to explain my trip because I know that you guys will identify with what I'm saying, or at least most of you. Some of you that are just starting to wake up may even have this happen to you. And some of you that are not even completely even started to wake up might experience this, but you're likely one of us. I had some paper cups I wanted to return because I ended up not using them, and I probably never would. So I took them back. And the lady at the returns area, customer service, she bursted out in confession, and this happens all the time to me, and I'm sure you guys probably have it happen to you. She bursted out into a confession of, and it started out so funny. She's like, My yard's the trashiest yard in the neighborhood. I'm like, okay. She's like, and you know what's out there? Dirty socks. And I'm like, okay. Little kids, okay. And she explained that. I have little kids. And she said, beyond picking up trash, that's all I do because the kids trash the place. I'm like, oh, wow. So uh, then she went on to describe being quite the exhibitionist when she was a child and running through the yard naked. And what started her on that confession to me was she said, and it's not just socks. She said, sometimes it's other pieces of clothing, other items. And she said, when I go outside and pick them up, I'm asking the kids, what have you been doing out here streaking? And then she proceeded to tell me about her own experiences doing so. And I'm like, okay. It's always entertaining. And then I had another lady, I was looking at some hard cheeses, and she struck up a conversation about, well, what do you think? What about this cheese? What about that cheese? You know, I said, well, it depends on what you're trying to cook. And and then and that was in a real highly specialized area of the deli area that has the real fancy hard cheeses and smoked cheeses and hard Parmesan and things like that. And then I moved over um, to where the generic, craft cheeses and things of that nature are. And she started talking to me again. Um, and she asked about what certain cheeses are used in what cooking. And so I basically, told her, well, she said, well, I think I'm going to make some Alfredo. And I'm like, well, you want to get a Parmesan, maybe a little Romano. It depends on your taste, what you like. So yeah, it was an interesting trip. You get that'll happen a lot. The other thing, I talked about the negatives. They won't look you in the eye. I mean, if they're not aware of you, right when you're first in their field, if they're not aware and they do look you in the eye and they get that, oh shit look, basically, there's other instances when I'm interacting with other people. There's the general public that I don't know. It's hard to describe. I'll talk about some people, it's much like that odd confession sort of thing going on, or you also get, and I think the ones that I get this with are either negatives, have attachments, or are like us. And what happens is some people are very unnerved by looking at me sometimes, looking me in the eye. It's like they know I'm reading them. And so that means that they have the ability to sense that. Maybe they're unaware of it. I mean, the species with amnesia on this planet, it's heavy. I mean, that amnesia is hard to get off. From the moment, I mean, when you come here, you get mind wiped. So, and then the heavy indoctrination happens. The virus. Think of this area where we're at, the holodeck. Think of it like a computer program. And there's those of us that are highly, highly intelligent. All of us are, let's put it that way. Not some of us, all of us. Highly intelligent in different ways. I know of one that's like us. He's stuck in a bit of what I call an oubliette, when you become so driven and focused on one single thing that it consumes you. That's an oubliette, and keeps you off your path. He's brilliant. You all are. And his thing is the numbers. He sees the numbers. He sees the numbers this holodeck's made from. And he's consumed by it. That's okay in one aspect, because he's a key to the grand puzzle I keep talking about. But it makes sometimes his ability to communicate with others difficult. Many of us are quick to anger because we have short fuses, because we've dealt with the virus for so many years, and you get sick of, inane comments. Because they're coming from people that really, really have no idea what's going on around them. They're unaware. So I'm going to get my chat room up because I haven't done that yet. I just wanted to kind of talk about the schedule. I'm going to try to do Sundays. There will be sporadic, spontaneous streams where something happens and I got to fill you guys in. Let me get my chat room up, because we're going to have a nice frank talk, and I'm also going to update you on what's been going on here. Ongoing, as I always say. All right, let's find that chat room. I hope you all are having an absolutely brilliant weekend. Try to always remember, even when things really hard and rough happen, remember the brilliance of all of it, because of the synchronicities and the things you're learning. So try to always keep your mind on that. Let's see if I can actually find my own video. That'd be nice, right? I'm going to get it muted. There we go. All right. Hey, Sir Tony. Good to see you. I'm going to pop this out. Aha. I think I got this under control. Maybe? All right. Yay. Trying not to cover up the chat. Okay. Got it. But I'm going to try to do Sundays, because it seems like most of us are lounging around looking for something to do on that day, because many of you may not attend church. Even though you might have a religion, you may not attend church itself because of that same problem I have with too much input. Because the people around you absorbing their their thoughts and emotions, and yeah. So yeah, so far I didn't give a lot of notice, but people see it. Oh, hello, Miss Angel. Good to see you. You caught it live. Yay! I hope Miss Kim does too, because she missed it last time. So, and I was just talking about, a couple of you were asking about a schedule, and I'm going to try to do 10 o'clock on Sundays. And I was just kind of commenting on the reasoning behind it, because it's a time when a lot of us are chilling, basically. That's a good way to put it. Anyway, let's see. So I talked about what it's like in public and why a lot of us shy from the public as much as possible. Like, I avoid the store like the plague. Um, and when I do go, it's early, early morning, um, or late at night, wee hours in the morning, when nobody's around except for maybe stalkers, and not stalkers as in STALKERS, but store stuck in the shelves type stalkers. Yeah, it sounds pretty much the same. But anyway, I took notes. Like I said yesterday, I planned on streaming, but the holodeck decided that wasn't happening, and it did allow me some time for some self-examination, because that's an ongoing thing. Like I said, this process of awakening is an ongoing process, and you stop and self-check all the time, because there's always that self-doubt, which is part of the virus, unfortunately. So we have to overcome that. But that self-reflection occasionally is not a bad thing at all. The thing that I've noticed about all of us, first of all, we share this genetics, this MTHFR. And let me get this out there immediately, right away, so I don't forget. Those of you that have MTHFR, there are a whole bunch of insults to our system based on that genetic code. Part of that equation is folic acid. If you have MTHFR genetics, folic acid is like slowly being poisoned, and it triggers switches in that genetic code. And I don't care if it sounds paranoid or not, I believe that is being targeted intentionally. Vaccinations and a whole lot of other things, not just the folic acid. There's way too many common denominators that all add up to that genetic code specifically being targeted. So if it was just folic acid, it would be paranoid to say it, but it's not just folic acid. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on out there that strategically targets that genetic code. So, when you do the math, it adds up. So I'm just putting that out there. So many of you have autoimmune disorders. Those all stem from that particular genetic code. Use your Google foo, and Google MTHFR and folic acid. Google just the MTHFR part, and look how that is connected to all these autoimmune disorders going on. One of the people that I have contact with, her mission is to help heal those of us that have been affected by this. And that's pretty much 100% of us to varying degrees, because it depends on which switches in that genetic code get flipped as to how it manifests in your biosuit. Okay. She has been working with, researching, studying this for 30 years. She had a online store that marketed products specifically for that genetics, basically. But she took all that down. She stopped it because she wanted to directly benefit us, specifically be there for us. So she doesn't have a new online store yet. She set it up much like an organization, like a church is, and she her channel is called Christian Truth, and there's links in the description for her channel. She knows her stuff. Like I said, she's been studying this, watched her family go through this, and found ways to solve the different problems and triggers that happen in that genetic code, things that you can do to alleviate symptoms without using pharmaceuticals. Because with that particular genetics, the big thing that seems to show up is allergies. And those will increase with time because of the damage being done to that genetic code. Like I said, it's a slow poisoning. So over time, you'll develop more and more and more allergies to medications and all kinds of things. And let's face it, the pharmaceuticals, the older stuff, like some of the older drugs, like I don't know, even some of those aren't good. But some of the older ones, our bodies seem to be okay with. But this new stuff, some of it's targeted directly at us. Like, for instance, some of the ones that supposedly kill pain, but they're the newfangled antidepressants. That's what they really are. They're also used to help people quit smoking, supposedly. And this is another key thing. Many of us are smokers, and there's a reason. Christian Truth can get into the details of that, but nicotine is part of the nicotinamide family, or I'm not sure if I pronounced that right. But many of you, because of the allergies, experience what is known as a high amount of anxiety, or it feels like anxiety. But what it actually is, what is actually occurring is an allergic reaction. And same thing with other psychiatric disorders. They're finding, with studies, that these are allergy driven. They're not, they're chemical. But what started the chemical problem is actually allergic reactions to different things. It can be what you put in your mouth. It can be chemicals or fumes. It can be, there's anything on the planet it's possible to be allergic to. So, including yourself. I know that sounds freaky. And you can be allergic to the sun. I am. So, they're finding out that many of these things, and also addictions, many of you are going to be struggling with addictions of various types, including cigarettes. That's all that stuff is because of this particular genetic code. And if you start looking into it, Google through it, start becoming familiar with it, Christian Truth can help guide you in that journey of figuring all that out, because what we are is inside of a biosuit. That's the best way I can describe it. This outer shell is not what we really are. It's basically where the virus entrapped us, is a good way to put it. For lack of, because I'm trying to put it in the simplest of terms. But while we're in these biosuits, we have to be as healthy as we possibly can so that we can function enough to awaken. Because, like I said, that genetics is being targeted, and that is basically another form of the TI sort of thing. Because if they keep you sick enough, it'll keep you off your game. Okay? So, and prevent you from awakening or awakening fully. So, and I don't even know what fully is yet. Like I said, I'm in the process. We all are. So, others like me, we're all, it's like we're feeling around in the dark. And you have to remember, when we got put here, when we came volunteered, we got mind wiped too, just like everything else that comes in. So we're having to find our way, and we're just trying to guide and lead those that haven't yet or are just beginning to. And in all various facets, because all of us, like I said, we're all pieces to a grand puzzle, and it doesn't matter what stage of your awakening process, some of the epiphanies you have may be one of those puzzle pieces we can snap into place. So remember, when you're watching me or anybody else that's like us, remember, we're finding our way just like you are. We're just trying to give the best advice possible that we can for you that helped us. So we're not infallible. We make mistakes. We get wrong impressions about things. We're not all knowing, definitely. So bear with us. We're going to do our best to get you guys through this and get this show on the road. It's a good way to say it. Hi, everybody. Good to see you. Happy Sunday morning. Oh, Miss Kim. I was hoping you'd make it. Anyway, there was in your awakening process, you know, I talk about getting in contact with that inner child. Some people call it your inner spark, your soul, your spirit. There's lots of names for it. The reason I call it the inner child, and such as Miss Kelly Coffee, she calls it, what does she call it? Imagination. Because if you think back to when you were little, think back to when you were little. Take a deep breath. Think back. Find that place when you still had your innocence, before all the trauma, or maybe very little trauma had happened yet. Go back to that place where you were either like with a grandparent, or a best friend, or a parent, or sibling, or maybe just by yourself, when you were feeling, or with a pet or something, where you were feeling true bliss, true happiness, and there wasn't a care in your head. Think about that time. And really, take a really deep breath. I'm telling you how to connect with your inner child. First of all, unplug your Wi-Fi. Turn it off. Unplug it. I would do that at night too. Turn off your cell phone. Don't just put it on airplane mode. Turn it off. Turn off the ringers on your phones. Go out in nature, whatever it takes for you to be able to quiet the din from all the trauma. Take nice deep breaths and focus in on those breaths, because that'll help you quiet some of the din. And just be. And then start thinking about that time when you were little and that perfect, pure bliss. And really go back to that moment. Let yourself literally feel, see, smell everything that it was like. Was it a puppy's breath? What was it? Key into things, the smell, all of it, the sensory, all of it. Just be there. Go back there. You're basically time traveling when you do this. You're basically astral projecting when you do this. But it's connecting you with your imagination, your inner child, because many of us with the trauma have lost our imagination. And like I said, and many have said, we're creators. We are creators. And if you lose your imagination, you lose a great deal. And you need to get back into a connection with that. And you have to keep reestablishing, because further traumas, because I'm not saying those are going to stop, because they don't. It's how you deal with it that matters. So, and your perspective of what's going on there. And that's part of what I'm going to be trying to awaken you to, is the perspective. When you're in that place, there's nothing that isn't possible. Think about that. Think about what that was like. So try doing that. And like I said, you make sure phones are off, get the Wi-Fi and RF, because that will interfere. That's part of the din that goes on around, that's part of the virus in this holodeck, matrix, whatever you want to call it. It's like a giant video game, literally. It's a good way to put it. So, and remind yourself, the more you go back to that place, the faster you will awaken and be able to deal with and handle the trauma that's happened and the coming trauma. Because, yeah, we won, but there's still, like I said, lots of nooks and crannies. It's going to take a while to clean all this out. But the more of us that are awake, the faster that process happens, the faster we get the nasties out. So, with the virus, the malware, think of it like that. Think of it, I mean, because that is a very, very good way to look at it. It makes perfect sense, doesn't it? So, good to see you guys. It really is. I hope that helps when I'm talking about how to connect. Practice that. Do it, especially at first. Do it every day. Do it for a couple of hours. Do it all day if you have to, because it will knock your socks off if you really, really let yourself go back there. Go to that time. So anyway, there's that too. But do remember, Christian Truth, her link's down there. This MTHFR thing is a thing, and as long as we're in a biosuit, you need to be able to heal yourself enough that you can do that inner child work, because part of the insults, part of the trauma to that genetics will keep you from being able to connect very well. So there's that. She, because of all the years she's done that, you can describe a symptom to her and she can tell you why it's happening. It's usually chemical things like the chemical imbalances in the brain. Well, why did it occur? She can help you with that. I can help you with that because I've done a lot of research on that particular thing, and I know about all the autoimmune disorders that cascade under it. And it's all of them, including cancer, including psychological disorders. None of it's your fault. It's trauma, 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 trauma. You know, a lot of people say, well, you can go to this place and heal yourself. You know, that inner child, the imagination, the real you. That's true to an extent, but we're still dealing with this physical biosuit. And curing those traumas emotionally by connecting with that inner imagination, child, spirit, soul, whatever you like to call it. That's one facet, but the biosuit is another because they are directly, the virus is targeting your DNA. So even if you do the spiritual work to release those traumas, you still got to deal with that MTHFR genetic code. Because you're still going to have allergic reactions, asthma attacks, you name it. And that's how it manifests the most, is in allergic reactions. That's the biggest thing. So I just wanted you to be aware of that. And I can help you to some extent. Christian Truth, she can help you too. Like I said, links below. There's one thing that will help speed your awakening process is realizing what it is and where you are at. Remember, I talked about if you think you're in hell, if you've ever asked that question, you're one of us. Well, I know a lot of people, and I thought this too. Another one that I thought was off his rocker, and he's one of us. And the reason he seems off his rocker is because he's just like us. We're feeling our way in the dark because of that amnesia that we've been stripping away. So we get wrong impressions sometimes. So he's made mistakes. We all do. But I thought he was just, you know, I've revisited his work on several occasions now. And now, you know, I don't agree with all of us in our work because we do make mistakes and we can be wrong. But when all of us are coming up with the exact same thing, you can pretty much bet that's one of those pieces we can snap into that puzzle. So the video, I put a link in the description, is a lecture that David Icke gave. And that will be a big jumpstart for you on your awakening process. Big jumpstart. There's other people that have done the research, the years and years and years of toiling over theology, anthropology, genetics, paranormal. I mean, the list of things that I've delved into is extensive. And someone that has done and walked that exact same path has written some papers that are a good guide too. Because once you awaken, you may have questions. How did we get to this point? How did it get here? You know, my dad said something to me when I was a little kid, follow the money trail. I don't think he was aware of just how right he was. Problem is, most people stop. They get to, okay, the government's corrupt. Why is it corrupt? And they stop there. You got to keep digging, digging, digging. Go back, back, back in history. And when you walk that path, you start going through religion. You start going through governments. You start, and then you end up in anthropology and archaeology. I mean, it gets crazy. And, you know, the interest in the paranormal, you know, because, okay, why are there orbs? Why am I seeing things? Why are there shadow beings? Why? Why? And I want answers, basically. I'm one of those why people. I've always been that. I think that's part of why the amnesia didn't totally work on me, is because that inner child curiosity never left. It got sidelined for a while because everybody goes and, you know, because of the indoctrination with in various holy establishments and the academic system, they try to shut it off, and they convince you that you graduate school, you get married, you have kids, and of course that's evolved now. Even with the females, it's you go to work, you get married, and maybe have kids. Our system, it's for their convenience, the virus, okay? But mine didn't totally get shut off. I did do the what's expected of everyone, but it wasn't the real me, and it didn't quite feel right. Something was off, and I knew it. But sometimes you just go with the flow. Yeah. So I hope you guys are interested, or maybe I've spoken something that you hadn't thought of, I hope. But okay, so David Icke, his recent lecture is about consciousness. I highly advise you watch it. It's like a starter course and what is going on. And like I said, we share this genetic code. We share, many of you haven't been told this, but you're highly intelligent in different ways. Highly intelligent, off the charts intelligent. And there's nothing we can't do when we fully realize what we are. Nothing. So, all right. Now I'm going to get into some stuff that's been going on here. Because like I said, it's ongoing. They'll continue to try to do trauma to you. But when you get where I'm at and the fear is gone, because there's no fear anymore. Okay? None. Once you get to a certain point, you'll go, oh, what was I scared of? Because they've trained you to be scared. That's part of the virus. Okay? Because they feed off of that negative energy. And I know some of you are going to be going, who's they? As you become more aware, you'll figure that out. But we'll just call it the virus, the malware. Pretend this is a game, the holodeck, and it's got a virus, malware. And that's a very good way to describe it, because that's basically what it is. So, like I said, this holodeck was supposed to be an Eden for those imagination child spirit souls to come play, and it's got a virus. It's a really good basic way to put it. But you'll learn as time goes on what the they actually is, and so that you can identify it. And part of that will just be me talking about the things I have going on, because that'll help you identify it. And some of you have already experienced it, and it'll be validation. So let's see. What else? I've got notes upon notes of what to talk to you all about. Oh, let's see. What did I do with them? There they are. Glasses. There's actually eye exercises you can do that do improve your eyesight. It's just managing to take the time to do it. And I did them for a while and got myself to where I didn't need the glasses at all. And now I'm back to sometimes, but I also think that has a lot to do with some inflammation I've got going on in my system. And part of that is because I ate things that I knew darn well were going to be an issue. So, yeah, and inflammation will make your eyesight fluctuate. Just saying. Anyway, let's see what we got here. Oh, that's a whole video right there. That was one I was going to talk about visual. Okay, I just talked about some of the visual, but I'm going to do an entire video that's based on just the visual stuff. I'm also going to do an entire video on pieces to the puzzle, other channels that you might want to keep an eye on. Remember, we're all fallible. We may get some things wrong, but when we're all coming up with the same generic answers, you can just about bet that's one of the pieces we can snap into place, okay? Let's see. I already discussed the stream schedule. I'm going to try to do Sundays at 10 Central Time. And that way, some of our UK friends and other places can catch it. Occasionally, I'll do night ones. And like I said, sporadically, if something occurs that's important that I need to, like the downloads I get that are spot on premonition stuff, I'll put those up as fast as I can. All right, okay, I took care of that. All right, I forgot to talk about last time I streamed a couple of things, and I've got some new stuff that occurred here. All right, I told you about the second experience with the astral demon coming down into the holodeck, following me into the holodeck, basically. Because I believe that we are actually portals of a type, and they can try to take advantage of that, and they can, obviously. After that second occurrence, because I've had, like I said, I needed to do a lot of self-reflection, and I've had this intense headache. When I talked to my friend Spirit about that headache, she said it's because I'm going through another advancement in my awakening process. Evidently, it is like pressure, because I asked her, I said, I don't know if I'm getting some sort of targeting or what's going on, because every once in a while I'm getting this intense, and it's not sinus, it's just like a band around my head. And it's not a headache. It's hard to describe, but it makes it hard to concentrate. So, and I talked to her about that, and she said that she thought that those are times right before you have big epiphanies, big ones. And mine's been going on and off a lot lately. So, and I have had quite a few epiphanies. So I guess, yeah, that's what she said is probably true. But after I had that second confrontation with the nasty on Sunday, I had, I guess, kind of, I mean, almost a depression, I guess is a way to put it. It's hard to describe because you just get so sick and disgusted with all that's gone wrong that sometimes you just have a heck with it moment, you know. You know, I want out of this now kind of feeling. And I was walking out of the bathroom, and I suddenly turned back into the bathroom right at the doorway. And there's a big mirror, big giant mirror in my bathroom. It's like, I don't know, 5 or 6 feet and, long, and it's real, probably about 4 feet tall, big one. And I turned around, and all of a sudden I got a lecture from the mirror. It was me talking, my voice, but that wasn't me giving the lecture. But I got a lecture in the mirror. I've never had that occur before. I don't talk to myself in the mirror. I rarely even look at mirrors. Just brief periods of time to check hair or something like that. I don't spend gobs of time in a mirror ever. But when I turned back around, I got a lecture to suck it up and get on with it. I'm not kidding. And yeah, that wasn't me giving myself a lecture. Exactly. So there's that. That's one of the things that happened. I needed it too. It was a good swift kick in the ass, which I needed. Quit sulking, get on with it, sort of thing. There's a couple of things that happened that I forgot to mention in previous videos. At Memorial Weekend back in May, my father-in-law needed, they have a family reunion every year in Oklahoma. And he needed someone to take him because he's 85. And he's starting to get scared to drive. And no one else was going. And I'm still struggling with the MTHFR because I've got a multitude of autoimmune disorders because of it. And so I'm not super okay all the time, health-wise. And, but I'm just much better than I was. I was pretty much nearly dead and experienced near-death experiences over and over and over again. I can't tell you how many times because of anaphylaxis. Um, but I'm getting better, and occasionally I can get out and go. And he was wanting to go on, to this family reunion. No one else was going. Um, and he's getting up in years, and I wanted him to be able to see his brothers and sisters that are still alive. And so I volunteered to go. Scary proposition, because I never know how I'm feeling one day to the next, because some fume in the air outside leaks in through a window and I'm toast. So yeah. So volunteering to go is a risky proposition for me. But I did it because I did not want him to miss that. So I went. And because I'm away from home, I didn't eat like I should, stay away from folic acid and all that. So after the weekend was over, and by the time we got back, I was getting pretty ill from all the travel, being out in the heat and the sun. Those are heat, humidity, and the sun are like the bane of my existence because of that MTHFR thing. And so I was pretty sick by the time I got home. And when I'm around other people, I don't voice it generally unless I'm about ready to pass out or something very, very bad, like ER trip type thing. It's getting that bad sort of thing. And I'm not talking about, oh, I have a rash, I need to go to the ER. No, I'm talking about I'm dying. I won't go to a hospital unless that's the case. I've had way too many very, very bad experiences with hospitals and doctors that don't know what they're doing, nearly killing me. So the ER is like my last resort because they could very well kill me anyway. So I have to be dying, not kidding, to go. I don't like going there. I avoid it. I'm also a germaphobe, and that's one of those places where you could get really sick because of the stuff floating around. So I got really sick when I got home, and I didn't go to the ER because I wasn't dying yet, but I was pretty sick. And I was laying in bed, and I became semi-conscious, and I heard two people talking, both men. I believe that was likely, I'm not positive, but I'm relatively certain it was my guys, Gabriel and Ed, and I talking back and forth. Not 100%, but likely. And I heard, physical voices talking, and one of them said, "So what do we do?" And the other one said, "Well, I'll stay with her." Exact words, "I'll stay with her." So that occurred. So they're basically watching over me when that's going down. And I don't know if you watched past videos of me talking about a large orb over my bed in broad daylight. They're watching over me. So that happened. Let's see what else. Something else that I wanted to just briefly mention and take note of, because it may or may not mean anything, but I have had over this area an extensive ramp up of military jets going over this area. You can also look it up online, Google it. Sonic booms over Missouri. Google it. There's been tons of that going on. The military is never, it's very, very rare to see a military plane here. The things we see here, off over here to my east, I will see air traffic going north-south, likely St. Louis, Chicago flights between them and some of the other, like Georgia or South Carolina or Texas, things like that. And then over here to my south, I'll see the east-west traffic that's going back and forth. But they're a ways off. They're not right above us, not even close. About the only air traffic we get is a small local airport here, small light aircraft, 4 or 6 seaters, maybe never jets. A very, very, very rare Learjet will go into that airport, but it's very rare. And then our life flight helicopter. So the air traffic is minimal here because of the location. We're not right in a main flight path, basically. So the military jets, huge ramp up. And not last night, the night before, it was 12, through the day is when most of this is occurring. But last night, it was not last night, night before. It was after midnight. It was probably 12:30, 12:45. A really, really big, and you can tell I have what's called hypercussive hearing, and many of you will have some odd abilities. And I can hear frequencies that are much higher and much lower than normal humans can hear. And the sound of airplane engines, they make different frequencies and pitches. And so like a fighter jet has a higher frequency. They're smaller, they're faster, and they make a higher frequency sound. But I heard that, but I also heard one that was big, a big, big jet, very low, traveling with other little ones, jets, fighter jets. That went over after midnight. So, and this is going on constantly around here, and the sonic booms constant. Now, why are they breaking their own, the FAA's laws on sonic booms over civilian airspace? I just want to make note of it because it's happening frequently, very frequently, and it's not normal here at all. So I made note of it. On to the next thing. Okay. Last night. I'll start with last night. Something else happened the night before too, and I'll get to that. Last night, 4:14 a.m. Because I've gotten in the habit of making sure I look at the clock when things happen, for various reasons. Sometimes those numbers that you get, they're calling them angel numbers. I think they're very much part of the holodeck. I talked about how the holodeck is basically like a game, like code. And I think the numbers popping up at us, they call them angel numbers, some people. Sometimes they'll literally like pop up off a screen, like you look down to look at a clock and you go, oh yeah, it's 11:08. But sometimes you'll look down and you'll get a number and it literally like lifts up off at you. It's weird and it's hard to describe. It's like it highlights. I think it's part of the code. So I've gotten very good about glancing at the clock, and I got up 4:14 a.m. according to my bedroom clock, and it's a little fast, just saying. I went to the bathroom, and for some reason, when I went back to my bedroom, I went to my bedroom window, walked past the bed, over to the bedroom window, and I opened the curtains back so I could look outside. Don't know why I did. Not sure. Then I just kind of glanced around. Clear sky, could see stars. And I was like, okay, nothing of significance. Because out that very same window, I've had ships. And I'm not talking about airplanes. I've had ships out that very window, basically flashing very brightly, trying to get my attention. And my son actually saw those. So sometimes I'll kind of go to that window and kind of look out and see who's around, you guys out there, you know. So I turn around to get back in my bed, and I'm like, okay, I guess nobody's bugging me tonight. That's good, you know, because I thought maybe maybe I woke up because I was getting bothered. Wasn't sure. So I was just kind of checking around. I was like, okay, who's lurking, you know? That's the way you feel. Anyway, I went back to my bed, or started heading that direction. And all of a sudden, I saw a flash of bright light on my bedroom wall, like lightning. I've seen the fireballs before on more than one occasion. Large, very large fireballs coming out of the sky. 3 different times. And I've seen the videos of other people catching meteorites and things like that on video. So it was either immediately because when I see something odd, I immediately go into figure out what it is mode. And basically think of all the options that could cause that flash, because it was fairly bright and it lit up my bedroom wall. And I'm like, is it lightning? And we did have storms yesterday, but the sky was clear. When I looked out the window, you could see stars. So it wasn't lightning. So I don't know what that was. I'm not sure. I don't know. Recently, there was one of those fireballs went over our area recently, just a few days ago. So it makes me wonder if maybe another one did. And that's what caused that flash on, you know, in the bedroom. So that happened last night. So it could have been another meteorite or something. Already talked about that. All right. Now I'm going to get into, not last night, the night before, when I heard the military jets. Later on, in the wee hours of what would have been yesterday morning. And I've had a lot going on lately with me being messed with, basically. After I heard the military jets and all that, I went to sleep. And I woke up. I don't know what time it was. And you'll know why I didn't look. I may have tried to look at the clock, but I was having trouble. If any of you have ever been sedated for a surgery, and when you are in recovery and waking up, what that feels like, that you're doing your best and you're trying to focus, but it's like nearly impossible? Or have you woke up in the middle of a surgery, that same thing, and then they get you back out again? Because a lot of us have our methylation of nutrients, vitamins, and things is off. And many of us process the medications that they use to put you to sleep differently. Some of us, it doesn't take much. Others, it takes a lot to get us out. I'm one of those. It takes a great deal to get me to go out. So that sedation, the way that feels if you wake up in the middle of the surgery, that's happened to me. I've done that several times now. Or the way it feels when you're waking up in the recovery room. And then this is more like what it feels like when you wake up in the middle of surgery and somebody, you know, the anesthesiologist realizes you are and gets your butt back down under quick. Okay. So you feel the effect of the drug and you're trying to wake up, but then they give you more and whoop, you're back out again. That's what this is like. And I've had it happen more than once. That night that happened, the same night with the military jets going over. It's really because you are so sort of out of it and you're trying your hardest to focus. You're trying to wake up. It's hard to wrap your mind around what you're visually looking at. But what I saw looked familiar because I've seen something similar to it before during another time when I was drugged. We talked about super soldiers and black ops happening. I think part of the reason they're messing with me is because I'm waking up more. And so they will pour on the trauma, trying to get you to shut it down. But on two particular occasions, the situation was very similar as far as what I visually saw. Very similar. I'm going to go more into that because I was going to do a video specifically, strategically dealing with the things I have seen, including interdimensionals, ETs, and other. Some of the stuff I've dealt with is inside the holodeck. Other things I've dealt with are outside the holodeck. And the holodeck is multidimensional. It's stacked on top. When they talk about dimensions, they're literally stacked on top of each other. They're right there. You can access them easily. Some of you can see these dimensions bleeding into our own. I don't know if that's because of the sun. I have a feeling it is. Some plays a part in that. But some of you will actually be able to see it. Other beings, other things, orbs, things like that, bleeding into our own part of the holodeck. Okay. And there's multiple levels to that holodeck, dimensions, people call them, I don't know. There's one thing, It's one thing I want to remind you guys. Sometimes focus, like when you're meditating or things like that, they tell you to focus. Let me tell you what it really is. It's more of a lack of focus. Adjusting your eyes out of focus, you'll be amazed what you see if you don't try to focus in on something specific. I'm going to give you, there's a link that I left for you under this video. It's a random live cam on a beach. I think the channel's called 30A or something like that. It's a beach. And that cam's running at night. It'll help you begin to see what I see. It'll also kind of help explain my first channel name, I See Lies. Because what I see. So what you do is you look at that cam. The one thing that's really brilliant is the new sensors on these digital cameras are highly sensitive, and they're picking up some of that dimensional stuff. And I want you to go see if you see what I see. So the link's in the description. What you do is you look at that cam when it is nighttime at that cam's location. And just sit there. And instead of focusing and trying to, oh, where's the orbs? Where's the this? Where's the that? Sit back and let your eyes go out of focus. Just a little bit. Maybe you'll see what I see. Many of you see these things in the clouds because they're pressing through into our holodeck. So I'm trying to help not just awaken you, but teach as much as I can the information I have. And like I said, it's limited to my personal experience. So one of you may have a different experience. And we're all feeling our way through the dark, snapping these puzzle pieces in. Because, like I said, the more of us that come up with the same conclusion, then we can snap that new piece into the puzzle, basically. And that's our work on this end. That's the job part of it. Some of your missions are going to involve other things. Some of you have already started your missions and may not even be aware that that's what it is. Some of you will not know what your missions are yet. You'll figure them out as you start to process and figure out where it is we are, what you are, and once a lot of you that are struggling with addictions and a lot of you that are struggling with the psychiatric disorders and things like that, like I said, it's connected to that genetics. And as you come to realize that, and as the blinders and this amnesia starts to lift, I think you will find you'll have a much easier time dealing with those problems and putting them into perspective so that you can calm yourself internally enough to deal with it. So anyway, that I think is all I had to talk about today. Do you guys have anything you want to talk about or any questions or anything for me? I know I was hard on some of you last video. Kind of said, you know, I had to throw religion out of it. It's not that I don't believe in something. It's that I had to take religion out of my perspective because many of you that are coming here are from different religions, different backgrounds. So I can't have that cloud my helping you. Because what if I'm coming, what if I say, hey, I'm a Christian and I don't believe what you believe, and so I can't help you because you don't believe what I believe. No, 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 no. Doesn't work that way, does it? Doesn't feel right, does it? Doesn't feel right to me at all. You know, some of the people that are heavily indoctrinated into religion, they are unbending, unyielding, and heavily programmed. Heavily. They're never going to snap out of that. That shit runs deep. And it's like, and the reason it runs so deep and they let it program them so deeply is because of fear. It's part of what this trauma is about, causing fear. They feed off of it. The virus feeds from it. But that's why I have to that's why I have to totally take that out of my equation. Completely. It's not because that I'm against people that have it or what have you. Not at all. Not at all. So just I wanted to make sure you guys know that, because like I said, it's not about religion. It's about a lot more than that. So any questions? Let's say I want to read through the chat. Oh, I'm gonna put my glasses on because the eyes are fuzzy today, and part of that's my fault, and part of it's just circumstance. But let's see what we got here today. Oh, yeah, Sir Tony's talking about seeing ETs when he meditates. Yep. Miss Angel is talking about them. Remember I talked about the war in heaven. That's a thing and it's real. She said that they're warring in my area. That's what you sense? Is that what you're feeling? Because I can confirm that's what I'm feeling. Yes, fights going on that you're not going to hear about on the news. That can explain all the sonic booms going on here, because they're not supposed to do that. So if they're doing that frequently, there's something going on, right? I don't think it would be a bunch of pilots hot dogging, because that gets them grounded. I know. I used to pilot small aircraft. It would get them grounded permanently. So, yeah, what is that all about? My gut feeling is the same as Miss Angel's. And I've told people that are seeing the dimensions that are starting to press into our sky, that there's a war in heaven, and that's kind of what you're seeing. Yeah. And then Sir Luke says, please don't put your trust in any ET being. These interdimensional demons don't need any more foothold. Yeah, I do agree with you on some level there. Don't focus on searching for these things. It's a rabbit hole. Yeah, it's a possibility. We're feeling our way in the dark here. And trust me, when I say we do a lot of introspection and self-reflection, because you have to remember there's a high level of intelligence going on here. And we constantly, constantly wonder about all the ifs, ands, or buts. It's like playing a chess game. What's the next move? Is it one? Trust me when I say this, and don't think this hasn't crossed my mind and others. Is this one giant psyop? Are we all being psyoped? You have to think of all the possible angles, and that does cross our minds. Like I said, putting together the puzzle pieces so we can find out. Because I don't know about you guys, but I want answers. We need answers, right? Want to know why you're getting traumatized and targeted over and over and over again? I do. I have my suspicions, nothing I can prove. Although some of it's provable. I mean, the folic acid being introduced into our system and advertised heavily on televisions, intentional targeting. Anyway, let's see what else we got. Looks like Tony had to leave. He's on a different, yeah, he's east, east, over past the UK east a little bit. Okay. So Miss Angel, you're a 2012. That's kind of your date when you started to wake, was it 2012? Mine started, it's like it never left because all those questions when I was little were still there, never lost them. I think the first ET contact that I can recall as an adult would have been 2000, probably 2003. So this has been ongoing for me for a while. So it's been going on for a good while. You felt like, okay, Miss Angel said that, she said, it's funny, my awakening was more like a soul death than awakening. I know what you're getting at, because some of the epiphanies and some of the, because when you do come to the realization that where we're at is not what you thought, when that really snaps home, it's an earth shaker. Um, I don't, I know what you mean though. It feels like a death of a sort, because it is kind of. And we've pondered, with the Mandela effect and things like that, whether those aren't actual death occurrences, like something occurred and we died and now we're on another dimensional plane and things are just slightly different on each one. So I'm wondering if the Mandela effect isn't that, and the amnesia isn't getting completely it's not taking hold like it's supposed to. And people are remembering, hey, that's not right. That guy died years ago. Why is he alive still? Things like that. We ponder these things. Basically, all of us together are like a incredibly intelligent think tank. Is a good way to put it. Ah, you read Anne Rice, Memnoch the Devil. The book traumatized you. I read all of Anne Rice's stuff. That curious inner child never left. And part of it was delving into that. And it's much like I told Princess. I told her, I said, you have to walk in the dark to really know the light. You're telling your age, Miss Angel. Because the first Anne Rice book that she put out, I picked up and read in 1984 or 5, right in there. So yeah, my curiosity, like I said, has been in all things paranormal, you name it. And some of the things she's talking about, see her inner, don't know, I may be wrong. Anne Rice is either speaking from experience or she's in touch with her inner child imagination spot, or both. I think it's both. Because the things she writes about, some of that's the virus. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. Anyway, we're all pieces to this puzzle. Remember what I said about how to calm yourself, get rid of the Wi-Fi, the cell phones, and all that stuff. Find a place where you can shut down the den, focus in on your breathing first. Sometimes that helps. Remember what I said, you're actually astral traveling in a sense when you put your time traveling, when you put yourself back in that place where you were when you were a little kid, the smells, everything, all the sensory stuff. Remember all of it and kind of put yourself there. Remember it and what everything looked like, smelled like, all of it. Yeah, I have a feeling she's speaking from experience. Like I said, I think part of that she's still in connection with her inner, but some of it is because she knows. And I think a lot of the Illuminati know to varying degrees. I think that's also why you see some of those people, because of the programming and things, you see them start flipping out like Britney Spears. Because sometimes coming to the realization of where we're at is earth-shattering for some people. And those people that sign those contracts for Hollywood and the music industry, those contracts, yeah, they're selling themselves. And so they're programming after that. I wouldn't want to be them. When you're younger and you see these bands up on stage and singers and stuff, and you think, I'd love to be them. No, you don't. No, you don't. You don't want to ever be them. Oh, that would not be good. Not in my book. So yeah, I changed my thoughts on that a long time ago. Because I do love singing, but not enough to jump those hoops. Anyway, I will be doing some streams. I've got, like I said, one with the entities I have had contact with, my sense of what they were. Like I said, could be wrong. Just my interpretation of what I was feeling, whether it was negative, positive, all that. Trying to think if there's anything else I need to cover today, or right now anyway. I may do another stream a little later on the different beings. I also wanted to do a stream talking about the sensory things that are different with me, and some of you may have commonalities there. I wanted to talk about that. So that was going to be a whole separate thing. So at least two more. One of them being probably in just a little while. I'll probably take a break and maybe, I don't know, maybe this, well, not this evening. It'll be a little later this afternoon. I'll take a break for maybe an hour or two and then come back probably. I can't promise anything because after yesterday, oh, I was going to share. We had a storm come through here yesterday. It did not have any warnings on it, but it had some very unusual things going on. And I did go outside and videotape a cloud that was cleared to the ground. Now, whether it was a scud or what, I don't know. The wind was very extreme. I also noticed before I went outside, because it's one of my hobbies, tracking storms and watching them come in, watching tornadoes, things like that. Always had a big fascination with it. And I've been watching radars for years. And there's some signatures on there that didn't used to be on there. And one of them, the one that stood out, there was others, but the one on the cell that was coming up our way that stood out reminds me of the signature that happens. It looks like, when you drop water into a puddle and the rings that come out, it's like big in the center and then rings come out. It's similar to that. I don't know what they're doing that's causing that signature, but it's not natural. It's not a natural phenomenon. And they were doing it to that particular cell that came up this way. There was no warnings on the cell at all. It had pretty high winds too. High enough that I had to brace myself against them, and it about pulled my cell phone camera out of my hand. It was like I had to really hang on to it. I was like, okay, that's pretty strong. I was going to share that with you guys. Maybe I'll tack it on to the end of I don't know. I'll show it real quick. What the heck? I was going to go, but I'll just share it real quick. Oh, there was a couple of interesting things in the sky yesterday. Like I said, it's like the universe was telling me not to stream because all this other stuff was going on. Let me find. Okay, this is my first video of, first video of the day. Oh, and the airplanes going over, the date would be the 9th. I recorded the actual planes. I'm not going to play the video because it didn't turn, it's middle of the night, it's pitch dark. All you can do is hear the planes. And barely, because they had already gone over by the time I got the camera and got over there to record. So I was like, I'm not going to show them that because it's like uneventful, really. Besides just noting the fact that the military aircraft, his uptick is huge here. Okay, this is the first video for yesterday. I'm going to turn that down. Oh, I was going to do a screen share. I got to do a screen share. Derp. Hold on. Close that. It's like, oh, I'm just not with it here. Screen share. Here we go. Okay. I want to close my thing. Here we go. That got my attention yesterday morning. Another one of our fun sun dogs. I had opened my door yesterday morning to let the cat in to eat. The free agent that I have here. That's why I call him my free agent. And I noticed, because like I said, we're hyper observant, some of us, and we're more aware of our surroundings than most people, and certain things pop out to us that other people don't even notice. And I noticed a reflection in my car windshield, and it's like this straight, perfect rainbow line right in the middle of my windshield. And I'm like, what is that? I'm like, did somebody break my windshield or what's going on there? And so I stepped out to look up above the car, and that's what was there, was this sundog. Well, quote, sundog, quote. And then there was the white powdery, and I mean, it was heavy, white powdery, and it smelled weird outside. This is in the morning. This would be around 8, or yeah, it was around 8 a.m. Anyway, there's a lot more going on there. Stuff pressing through. But that's why I pointed it at my car, is because you could see the reflection of that in my windshield. Anyway, that's the first one. And I will show you the storm that went through here. This is the cloud I'm talking about. Went clear to the ground. You can see the outline of it here. See, right there. And then there's like a secondary, oh, let me turn the volume up so you can hear how windy it was. See how the camera's shaking? That's because of the wind. I'm holding on to it tight. But anyway, yeah, that's part of what kept me from streaming yesterday. A very small fraction. But anyway, I'll go ahead and close that. So you guys got to see my storm yesterday. Anyway, I will say goodbye for now. Take a couple hour break. Then I'm gonna come back and talk about the different various beings I've had contact with. So if you don't get to come back, I hope you get to watch the replay maybe or what have you. So I will see you all in a couple, well, an hour or two, approximate, give or take. So anyway, talk to you all soon. Bye bye.